and welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Today was a newsy day in the Bombay High Court today. Justice Nitin Samre was hearing the bail application of Aryan Khan in the matter in which there were allegations leveled against him, and he was being accused by the Narcotics Control Bureau and the other two accused also. As we speak, senior advocate and former Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi argued for Aryan Khan. Of course, there was senior advocate Amit Desai in the team, senior advocate Satish Maneshinde. They were briefed by a team of advocate Sandeep and also advocate Ruby Habuja from Karanjawala and company. This whole team was in Bombay High Court today, and this hearing happened. We will get to know whether Aryan Khan gets bailed tomorrow. That is after the bail application of the other two accused in this case have also been heard. But what happened in the court today, we will delve on that with an eminent panel. I have with me Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari and Advocate Gagan Kumar. Welcome and thank you for joining me at a short notice today. Mr. Gagan Kumar, could you share with us what happened in the court today?
Thanks, Tarun. What we understand from the information in public domain is that the matter came up for hearing somewhere after lunch. And as you are aware of the facts that Aryan Khan was arrested on the ground of possession and consumption of narcotic substance. And the session court dismissed his bail application on the ground that it is deemed to be conscious possession of the narcotic substance. And therefore, the bail application is hit by Section 37 of NDPS Act, which in substance, in simple language, overrides the normal provisions of bail and puts additional conditions for grant of bail. And the session court dismissed the application on the ground that the case does not appear to be fit under Section 37. Now, before we really go into that, we need to understand one thing for the layman language, is that the NDPS, the way it is worded, it places onerous burden on the accused. It is the accused who has to prove his innocence. Unlike the normal common law principle of criminal jurisprudence, where you are deemed to be innocent unless proven otherwise. Here, there is already a presumption of culpable mental state. So what Mr. Rohatgi argued today is that there was no possession. He was not found any possession of any narcotic substance. He could not have consumed it because he was apprehended before he could board the cruise ship. And even if it is argued that he was having knowledge of the substance with his friend, he cannot be held to be abating the crime because the friend was not under his control or influence. So on those counts, he could not have been denied bail, and more particularly the offense, the quantity is such which is not hit by Section 37, which places an onerous condition for grant of bail. So therefore, on those grounds, he should not have been denied bail. The matter, as you pointed out early in the opening, has ended there today, and the court will take up tomorrow, and then we'll know more.
Tarun, the point really is, and I'm sure the other people, the other points have been covered, but I think the larger point here that has to be made is that why today is bail such a big issue in such offences? Because of the twin conditions that apply in Section 37. Those conditions says that the court has to be satisfied that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the person who they're granting bail to has actually not committed the offense. That's a very high threshold for a court to meet at a very preliminary stage, even when there is no charge sheet filed. Now, this provision is not only in the NDPS Act, but is also there in other various acts. And there's a judgment of Justice Nariman of Supreme Court, Nikesh Tarachand, which I think everyone should read, which shows and discusses how these provisions are actually against fundamental right to bail. And in a PMLA context, that provision was set aside. So therefore, I think the larger question that we need to discuss, and this is an opportune time to do that, is that such twin conditions should not apply. Why should we not apply just general principles of bail and consider the person just we would consider the person for bail had he committed, let's say, a cheating offense or had he committed a forgery offense? Why do we have to have this more rigorous conditions that the court has to be satisfied that there are no reasonable, on the reasonableness of the accused not committing an offense, which I think is a very high threshold and which really creates the problem.
Okay. I want to ask you that would this case be a watershed movement where this issue will be thought upon? Because we saw a 23-year-old boy virtually spending now close to 3 weeks in jail for an offense. He has not been put to trial as yet, but he's already spent 3 weeks inside jail.
That's correct. And the reason is, and yes, this should be a case which should remind us that, conditions like the conditions in Section 37 can be draconian and can have a draconian impact. And they don't see what is the severity of the offense, but it imposes that condition on everybody and whoever. So whether it's a young boy who may be just going and having, as the allegation is made, that he may be going out for a party, or a very serious international crime syndicate mafia, there are no shades of gray. Both have to satisfy the Section 37 condition, which I think is very rigorous and which I think is quite draconian.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining this and decoding with us in common language for the people to know. A lot of people have interest in this case simply because, of course, people want to know why it is so tough to get bail, and you explained this. I'll go to Justice Ansari, sir. Since you've been a Chief Justice of the Patna High Court, you would have seen such matters earlier also. What is so different in the Aryan Khan matter?
Tarun, I say with some degree of concern that Aryan Khan matter is a peculiar case of the law being reversed. So long the bail was a rule, notwithstanding the fact that culpability is presumed, right? But that appears to have been changing gradually. This is a case which, as Mr. Gagan Kumar has very clearly explained, there is, to the extent that we have understood from the reporting in the various TV channels, the case is such that you don't have the ingredients of the case satisfied. And unless those conditions are satisfied, you can't really presume culpability of Aryan Khan for the purpose of denying bail. I am really shocked as to why he had not been granted bail by the Sessions Court or the Special Judges Court. I don't know what was really the court where bail has been denied. See, it is admittedly he has not consumed. And marijuana, and secondly, the possession is alleged to be with his friend, and there is no link to show that he knew that his friend had the incriminating material. It's very. For two persons to be together is one thing, but to say that one knows whatever else he has been carrying will not be very good choice and very safe statement.
So I want to ask you one more thing, sir. In other case, like say Bharti, there's another actress. She was found with 76 grams of some contraband. I think the same contraband which Aryan Khan's friend was found with. She got bail in a day's time with 15,000 rupees surety. So is it at the discretion of the court in that sense that in some matters bail will be granted, or is there something more to it which should be known?
You see, once you make the discretion unguided and unprincipled, then in that event your discretion becomes arbitrary.
Okay.
Your discretion, you have discretion, there's no doubt about it. But your discretion has to be governed by decided and is settled principles, which is, as I can see, is being denied in this case, because honestly speaking, I don't know why Aryan Khan bail has not been granted.
And before I go to Mr. Gagan Kumar, one thing I want to know from you. In other matters, we saw bail being granted by a lower court, which is the Sessions Court. In
Yes.
this case, this has come to the High Court. Do you think lower court judges are reluctant to give bail? Because other matters they are giving. So why are they reluctant? Is there some fear because the accused is high profile? Are judges fearing or reluctant? Ki, okay, let it go to the High Court. Let there be decided there.
So that appears to be that whether it is a fact or not, but that appears to be the fear. And that is a deadly blow to judiciary. Because
Yes.
our Chief Justice of India is very concerned. He makes his statement very
Yes.
authoritatively and fearlessly. He must take this into account as to what is happening with the judiciary. Why should they be so scared to grant bail where a bail is deserved?
You've made an important point. I'll request Advocate Gagan Kumar to delve into your points and also make his point.
Arun, I think there's a larger issue which need to be addressed and looked at. It's not just the NDPS Act. Even the PMLA Act, and for that matter, even UAPA Act contains similar provisions.
Okay.
So the question is that obviously one extreme is usually responded with another extreme. There were days when this song was popular, Dam Maro Dam Mit Jayengam. That's when the NDPS and the International Convention came and these laws were drafted. Yes, the crimes are heinous if you sell drug, which essentially finishes the humanity. But one will have to see it from another angle also. People who are consuming, are they really the offenders or are they victims?
Okay.
Because after consuming, what they need is rehabilitation, not retribution. So I think the way our laws have been drafted, it is high time that Parliament should have a relook at these provisions, that are they achieving the objective which is sought to be achieved? Yes, dealing in trade should be harshly punishable, but if a minor or a youngster ends up consuming a minor dose, I'm not saying it is pardonable, but it should not be so harsh. Take a
Mr.
situation,
Gagan
for
Kumar,
example. Sorry, take
Yes,
a
yes, please go on.
For example, a college student or a school student goes to his farewell party and someone spikes his drink, and NDPS or the authorities under NDPS raids, they would certainly find that person to having consumed the prohibited substance. Do you think he should be put behind the bars without even knowing he has inadvertently consumed such prohibited substance? So I think it's high time that these laws need a relook in terms of punishment and whether they are seeking to achieve the object of those laws.
Okay. Point very well taken. Mr. Gagan Kumar, I also want to ask you, there was a news report 3-4 days ago in Indian Express that spoke about the government has mooted a proposal to rehabilitate anybody who's found to be a consumer. So, I mean, government is already thinking about what you shared with us. I'll go to Justice Ansari. Sir, if you look at this issue, two things come to light. That there is vast discretion in grant of bail by the courts, that in some matters which are of similar kind, you get bail in a day. In some matters, it takes 3 weeks to get bail. Do you think it is to do with the burden of guilt is, in a sense, the burden of innocence is then put on the accused in this? Is simply that the reason? Or do you think that we need to relook at how lower courts look at bail matters? In some matters, it's given too easily. In some matters, it goes all the way up to the High Court. Do you think the High Courts need to be burdened with such cases? Because if you ignore the fact that the accused is a very high profile, victim, the accused is very high profile. Other things being the same, there are many such cases which happen.
See, it's amazing that Aryan Khan's case, he has not been given bail by the lower court. Mr. Gagan Kumar has added a new dimension. But to this case, of course, it is not very applicable, is that even when you consume a contraband, it cannot be a conscious consumption. So when there is a question of possession, it is all the more the degree is higher. And you have to be satisfied that this man knew that his friend was carrying. There is not even a small element of material mentioned so far in the arguments which have been advanced, with either in the lower court or in the high court.
And I want to ask you, this leak of WhatsApp chats in the media, does it invade the privacy of the accused?
Of course it does. That's why the right to privacy is invaded. And having taken the chat into account, if that is so far that link has not been established. Because as has been reported in the newspapers, somebody has to satisfy the correctness of these statements made. There is no such certificate given. And that certificate is not merely for trial, it's also for a fair investigation. Otherwise, how will you use it in the trial?
I will take your point to Advocate Gagan Kumar. Now, these leaks that happened, do you think this damaged the image of the accused? Because if he is proven innocent later, his image is tarnished because some private chats were leaked.
Absolutely. And you see, before he's found guilty or whether he's found guilty, now the news of arrest is all over there. But whenever, assuming he is freed by the court ultimately, that news item will be just 5 seconds, or in a newspaper, it would be some obscure place. So the point is that is where I think the responsibility of media and reporting comes. That is it right to report even at the stage of arrest without knowing the full facts? And I'll also want to make another point. You talked about high profile cases. See, ironically, what is happening is that high profile cases are becoming public interest litigation. Public is more interested in those litigations. It is becoming a gossip story or a tabloid news than the real legal issue. Like in this case, the way whatever facts have come to the light so far, it appears that Aryan Khan seems to be guilty, certainly, but of being a child of a celebrated couple. So
yes,
is that an offense under NDPS or any other law for that matter, or PMLA when it comes to other cases? So that's something which we need to examine. And that is why I suggested that it is high time that Parliament should relook at these provisions and see whether the draconian powers which have been given to the executive. See, I give you another point. There is a presumption of culpable mental state, but there is also a presumption that before the authorities take their action, they have discharged their initial burden of having reasonable knowledge of the offense. Now, the question is that whether that presumption has also been fulfilled or not, whether there was adequate and credible information about the purported offense. So I think that here, as we spoke, the phrase incongruability of remedies, that also need to be seen, that whether the remedies which are available to the accused or the authorities, are they at par or not?
Okay, point taken. Finally, I'll go to Justice Ansari for a final comment. Sir, agencies like Narcotics Control Bureau, are they meant to catch peddlers, or are they meant to catch people who deal in big time drugs, basically people who get these drugs into India, people who are basically, in the sense, bulk carriers of such thing, or they are supposed to carry small time consumers they arrest? Do you think we should relook at this thing, why these agencies were formed? Were it to arrest small time consumers or for a larger cause?
You see, there is a judicial pronouncement which says that these agencies are only authorities. So they can investigate, but has nothing to do with the judicial process. Meaning thereby, that is why when you make a statement before an officer of a narcotic bureau, that statement is admissible in law. Whereas if it is a police officer, it will not be admissible in law. Even if there is a police officer and he is considered for fraud reason to be a police officer, then his statement made before him will be admissible, just like the customs officers. You make a statement before the custom officer, it is
One small follow-up question, sir. Are these agencies meant to catch consumers or people who actually deal in these drugs, which is peddlers, not even peddlers, but people who are actually engaging in bulk quantity of purchase and sale of drugs?
It is for both. There is no doubt about it. It's not for one only, it's for both. But it is expected that when you keep a person for 3 weeks, 4 weeks in jail, because after all, on your insistence and resistance, the man is not being allowed to go on bail.
Yes.
You have to be sure that you are carrying on law fairly and in the manner in which the law wants you to exercise the power.
Point well taken. Today was an interesting discussion in the sense that we understood not only the law, why there was a hesitation of bail, and why in this case bail took so long, because everybody thought this is a matter of a few days now, but it's almost 3 weeks. I think on October 2, Aryan Khan was arrested. Today, it's so many days. So, in fact, the news cycle, I guess, was consumed by this whole issue. There was only Aryan Khan for the past 3 weeks on all news channels and nothing else. So, there are many things which are very mysterious when these things happen. But that's for another day and another discussion. I would like to thank Advocate Gagan Kumar and Justice Ansari for sparing time at a very short notice and joining me to decode this for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.